Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is an HD muscle athlete and future IFBB Pro. Today's guest is Jason Nguyen. Jason, welcome to the podcast.
What's up, Quint?
All righty, my man. So we're going to jump right into it. The first question I've got for you, Jason, is who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time?
Favorite bodybuilders of all time, I'll probably have to say Ronnie Coleman. My training emulates and comes from his training, kind of. That's one. Flex Wheeler, based on structure, because I feel like, that's something that you can't really work, and that's just something you're kind of born with. And his structure is beautiful. Keon Prodigy, or Keon Pearson, which is his full name, definitely one of my favorites. Sean Clarita. So as you can tell, it's like I pick guys with structure, but at the same time, guys with like crazy intensity and density type of training. So that's like Sean Clarita and Ronnie Coleman, and then obviously Flex Wheeler and like Keon Pearson. So those are like the top four of my favorite bodybuilders of all time, I would say. Present and obviously, back in the past as well.
Excellent. How about favorite Canadian bodybuilder, either from the past or somebody presently?
Favorite Canadian bodybuilder right now, I'll probably say, or of all time, I'll probably say Ian is one of them because of like how he progressed as like a bodybuilder, like going from placing 5th, 6th, 7th to like being a top contender right now. You know what I mean? Like that is very, very impressive. A lot of you guys may not know this. Another favorite Canadian bodybuilder of mine is Paul Dillette. He's an OG in the game. His sheer mass is just, it's unfathomable. Like it's just unimaginable. So they'll probably say those two are like when it comes to physique wise and what they present on stage for sure.
Love it. All right. At what age, Jason, did you start lifting weights? And then why did you start lifting weights at that age?
At what age? I'd probably say the summer of grade 9 going to grade 10. So I would have been 14 going on to 15. And why I started lifting weights, I don't know. I just always have love for the weights. Like my dad wasn't a professional bodybuilder or even competed in shows, but he's always been a gym rat, so to speak. And he's always going to the gym. I always wanted to go with him, but I wasn't of age yet. So he's a big influence of mine. And why I started lifting weights, other than the fact that I wanted to go with my dad and spend time with him, was just more of the fact that I knew I was short. And it's like, if you can't grow one way, why don't you grow the other way? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Perfect, my man. All right. Why don't you, if you don't mind, Jason, just touch on your childhood, your upbringing a little bit. Where did you grow up? Do you have any siblings? What kind of molded or shaped your childhood? Touch on that up to high school, and then we'll transition from there.
Growing up, we weren't poor, but we weren't like well off, so to say. Both my parents are immigrants. So they came to Canada in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s. And growing up, we went from house to house. Like I think my parents didn't own their first house until like early 2000s. And like I said, they came here in like the 70s, right? So I remember, I don't remember. My mom used to tell me this all the time. Like we came from living in an attic, like I don't just renting an attic, all the way to like living in the basement. And then we progressed to renting in an apartment. And then, like I said, I remember those days. And then they eventually got their own house, which was a semi-detached house, which they were starting to do better. But I could see that back in the day, we were like a little struggling to say, but we weren't like fully poor, because at the end of the day, like we still had family in Canada, which was helping us out a little bit. But I've always seen the work ethic behind my parents, right? And I feel like that motivated me to like strive to always be better in and outside of the gym, right? So I feel like I get my work ethic from them. And then going up to high school, it was just like I was very sport oriented. like I said, I'm not the tallest guy. I'm only like I'm like Sean Karia's height, which is like 5'3", 5'4". But I always played sports like basketball where you needed height, but I wasn't bad. Definitely wasn't the best because of my height, but like I still love the sport. So basketball was one. Then I fell in love with rugby. I didn't play football because our high school never offered a football team. So rugby was the next big thing. And rugby was pretty cool because it's like it was a contact sport. And obviously as males, we love to get into like what we call a scrum or physical contact and all that. And then that also helped me wanting to get bigger, which helped me migrate to the gym. And then I love the gym, right? Like I said, the three main components of the gym is the squat, deadlift, and bench. It's like when I was in high school, I was just chasing pure numbers. So it's like, oh, let's get the biggest squat, let's get the biggest deadlift or bench, just hit these PRs. And that's what drove me to like lift more weights. And then gym, we had I don't know what you guys have over there, but we always had this course called literally weight room class, right? So they offered that in our high school, which was pretty nice. And obviously that was the only time I had access to the gym because I was still younger. Like I said, this was only in grade 9. And then once I start entering grade 10, we were allowed to go to like the public gyms and everything. And that's when I started following my dad. And he molded me into like, let's do like the bro split or like the bodybuilding split. You know what I mean? And I fell in love with that. So that's how bodybuilding came to be.
Awesome, man. Now I want to ask you something. You said your parents were immigrants. They came over here back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Did that have any effect on you? Not necessarily them being immigrants, but just maybe you looking a little bit different than some of the other students and kids growing up. Did that ever have an effect on you? Did you ever have any?
Sorry to cut you off. Yeah, but like it kind of did have an effect on me growing up because it's like I saw that I was different. Do you know what I mean? It was just like, it was weird because I don't know. It was like, I was talking to my fiance about this literally last night, and it was just like, I would always be ashamed to bring like our different cultural foods. And it was, like I said, like now that I'm like older, it's like, oh man, I love me some pho, which is like a beef rice noodle, right? And then I love me some like traditional Vietnamese food. But growing up, it was just like back in like elementary school and even part of high school, it was like my mom would make me these traditional foods, which I would love, but I would never bring to school because I was afraid that people or these kids would look at me a different way. So I opted out for like a ham and turkey sandwich, which I don't even like. And I'm just like, let me just try to fit in. But yeah, so it did have an effect because growing up at home, like you have all these good foods, but when you go to the gym and you see all these kids eating the same stuff, you kind of want it to be like them. So in terms of like the effects that it had on me, my parents being immigrants and then me being like a different culture, so to say, it definitely affected.
Right on. All right. Now, so sports kind of shaped your upbringing, your childhood. You mentioned basketball and rugby. Looking back, Jason, on your childhood, can you think of anything that kind of stands out in terms of something that you feel like really impacted you? Kind of now that you're an adult and you're pursuing your dreams, is there anything from childhood that really stands out that you feel like, hey, that situation, that experience, that individual, that really, really had an impact on who I am today? Is there anything like that from childhood?
Yeah, like I said, my dad, 100% my dad. My mom as well. I would say my mom, where her work ethic, because I could probably say without my mom, my family wouldn't be where we're at because she literally taught herself English. She taught herself the business aspect of running a business, caring for the business. And then on top of that, she was taking care of 2 kids, right? Me and my sister. Yes, I have a sister. And taking care of my dad, who is still today is very, very small talk in like he doesn't have the best English, right? So without my mom, I don't think my family would be where we're at today. But so that's the work ethic side. But my dad, in terms of the bodybuilding side, that definitely like motivated me to be a bodybuilder and like to to work out and, you know, like to train hard and eat and stay consistent. So, like I said, my parents 100% have full, fully definitely inspired me to be who I am today, for sure.
Love it, man. So touch on a little bit, Jason, what did the post high school years look like? Did you go to university? What was kind of your focus once you graduated from high school?
So post high school, I did go to university because I did make a deal with my parents. It was they said you have to get a degree, and then after you get a degree, you have 1 to 2 years of getting to do what you really wanted to do. So yes, I went to Laurier University, which is one of the known universities here in Canada, and I did a honors bachelor's in criminology. So I kind of learned about that was like the field that I wanted to pick in terms of what I wanted to go to university for. So it was like based on the law and your rights and all that stuff. Had to do with police work and it was in that type of field. And honestly, even if I didn't even make that deal with my parents, I feel like it's always good to have a backup plan, because let's say like what you want to do ends up not working out for you, right? At least you have a fallback to fall back on. So
For sure, for sure. All right. So during those university years, then did you kind of like fully engross yourself into bodybuilding? When did you actually go from just kind of lifting weights and trying to chase numbers and having fun to actually like, okay, like I love bodybuilding, I'm passionate about this, I'm going all in with it? Did that kind of start during the university years or after university?
it started in the last year of university. So it was my 4th year of university. That's when it really started. Back at home, we were training at a gym in Mississauga. That's where I grew up, by the way, Mississauga, Ontario. And we had a local bodybuilder, as you guys all know, it's Fuad Abiad. At the time, he was living in Mississauga, Ontario. So seeing this monster just like kill it every single day, day in and day out. And it's not only him, there were like amateur athletes, amateur bodybuilders that were there. Like this gym was known to be like what we call it the gorilla gym, because it was like, if you're not a pro, you're an amateur or you're chasing the pro card. So it's like being surrounded by a lot of people like that, it kind of like shaped me. And it was like, okay, you know what? I feel like I can do this. I have the shape. The size is definitely coming. And my numbers are good at the gym. Like I said, it really doesn't matter about numbers at the end of the day when it comes to bodybuilding. But for the age that I had, I knew kind of how to lift. Well, I knew how to lift, but like it was like proper form. And I was like seeing Fuad, I reached out to him. He was my first coach, and it was just literally all uphill from there. Like we won our first show, and yeah, and I fell in love with the sport.
So once you were done with university, you know, you said that your parents said, hey, get your degree, and then you have 2 to 3 years to kind of explore or kind of do whatever you want. Did you go from graduating from university or finishing up at university straight into pursuing the bodybuilding career, or did you kind of have some exploration years in there along with the bodybuilding?
It was straight into bodybuilding and everything that had to do with bodybuilding. So after university, I got myself a regular job at a supplement store known as Popeye Supplements. That was 2017. And while I was working at the supplement store, I was bodybuilding. So anything that had to do with bodybuilding, whether it's fitness related, supplement related, diet related, I was on board with it. But like, yeah, my job was just at the time a supplement store. And then today, after 2 years of working at Popeye Supplements, I opened up my own supplement store known as Boss. You guys can see see a little bit of it, but that's the SS
We
right
can
there.
see the O, the S, and the S, and
Yeah,
a period.
yeah. So I'm at my own supplement store right now. It's Boss Supplements. And then I opened up that in May 25th of 2019. So like I said, yeah, so this is what I always wanted to do. One, be my own business, own my own business, be my own boss, and still have relation with bodybuilding. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So
It's basically my mom's, like I said, like my mom with the business aspect and my dad with the bodybuilding. I kind of like molded them two together. That shaped my career and who I am.
And that's awesome. And that's something that came up just recently with another podcast guest, Jason, is like, looking back on our childhood, it's really amazing to see how the adults in our lives, whether it's parents or teachers or what have you, coaches, those adults that are present in our childhoods play such a powerful role in who we become as adults. So it's so cool to kind of see how you took a little bit of both of your parents and you've run with it. Now, question about Boss supplements. Does Boss kind of does it mean like being a boss, or is there some other meaning towards that name?
Well, Boss is an abbreviation. So it actually stands for Barry's Official Supplement. Barry is a city located in Ontario as well. So we're a chain. So I joined the Boss family due to the fact that I understand that a lot of these guys, a lot of these owners were also competing at the time in the CPA, which is Canadian Physique Alliance, of course. So that's why I joined. And on top of that, I love what they stood for. They're not like, when I say a chain, you guys often think like McDonald's or KFC, like, one of those chains where it's like, it's literally just a franchise. And, once you get into the franchise, like, you're kind of like messed up because it's like, you're just part of it, just another company that probably doesn't care about you. But no, this is a chain where we only have a few stores. We're not that big yet, or we're still on the come up. And I like that, you know what I mean? And we all talk every single day. All the owners, we always get together. We talk every single day. And yeah, it's like, it's very family oriented, which is what I love, right? So.
Yes. Okay. Before we talk a little bit more about bodybuilding, since we're already talking about your business, which is a supplement store, why don't we touch on HD Muscle? You're an athlete for them.
Yes.
The Hamilton brothers, I see so much amazing content coming from them. So much, so many amazing athletes are a part of HD Muscle. So talk about HD Muscle, talk about some of their products, maybe that you really appreciate, kind of whatever else you want to touch on.
HD is probably the best supplement company out there. Not in terms of only their supplement line, but like what they stand for as well. Like I said, I love family oriented things, like my family, the Boss family, and now HD brought me a part of their team, and it literally feels like a family. Every time I step into Pure Muscle, like I said, I'm rocking their shirt. But they treat you like family. They're always right behind you, whether you need help with something, regarding traveling or anything of the such. They always send out supplements, make sure you're taken care of. And I love that. I truly love that. And like I said, it's like more than a supplement company. Like when I see, like when I go to Pure Muscle or when I go a part of like to a local gym, they're so big now to the point it's like, hey, I seen you guys on YouTube. I love the content that you're putting out. It's like, it's more extended, not because you don't have to be an HD athlete to be a part of the family. And I love that, right? Because it's like, oh, because I've watched you on YouTube kind of thing. It's like, I know what you stand for. I know your methodology. I know what you take. And it's like, oh, can you elaborate more? I love when, I don't want to call them fans because at the end of the day, I treat everybody like family. So it's like, I love when people come up and it's like, to me, that's already family to me, because it's like, you're joining the team some way, whether you purchase a product or you try the product and you're talking to other people about it. It's like, you're already endorsing the product and you're already like speaking so highly of it, which honestly, when you do try the product, it's like nothing bad to say. Like their Pro HD is one of my favorite proteins of all time, grass-fed New Zealand whey, a full isolate. And on top of that, the flavors are amazing. I know in the industry, in the fitness industry that we live today, it's all about flavor first, right? Especially when you're talking to the average consumer, right? When you can list all these benefits of any supplement, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to, does it taste good? And me being a supplement owner, we always know that. So it's so easy to push their products because one, it's literally the best product in terms of like ingredients, in terms of dosing, clinically studied. They have Dr. Adil Khan, which is the medical professional behind all their supplements, right? And then when it comes to taste, they've got it all. So I love being a part of a company that kind of speaks for itself. You don't even have to talk about it. You don't have to boast about it. It's the product literally speak for itself. So when it comes to being part of HD, I couldn't be more grateful.
Excellent. Okay, so something that you have posted numerous times that I absolutely love I love the mentality. I love the mindset. I love the focus. And that is chasing a pro physique and not a pro card. So why don't you break that down a little bit? And once you break that down, Jason, then just touch on your contest history up to your most recent competition. So why are you chasing a pro physique and not a pro card? And then touch on your competition history, please.
Well, that saying, I'll be honest with you, I got that from Hunter Labrada because he's right. At the end of the day, it's like, especially in times like today, right? Like where COVID is a thing, or sorry, I should say the C word is a thing now. It's like not a lot of people want to compete because they know, especially in Canada, they don't even know shows are going to happen. So let's say you hop on stage at a pro qualifier and no one's there and you end up getting your pro card. But do you have the pro physique? Do you know what I mean? So it's like I always say, and that's just an example. When I say chase a pro physique, the pro card will come if you have a pro physique. But let's say you have a pro card now and it's like, okay, let's take 2-3 years off to get that pro physique. No, like chase a pro physique, master what you got. Because when you do get that pro card, it doesn't matter of if it's going to happen. It will happen if you have that pro physique. And then once you have that pro physique, you're ready to go. You know what I mean? Like let's compare yourself to a pro instead of like, I'm not talking about any amateurs, because at the end of the day, I'm still an amateur myself, right? But like, let's compare yourself to a pro and put yourself on a pro stage. That's what I mean by chase a pro physique, because once you have a pro physique, that's when you truly know that you are ready to be in the pro rankings, right? Anybody can get a pro card these days, right? It doesn't matter how you get it, but anybody can get it, right? But at the end of the day, it's not everybody has a pro physique that has a pro card. And that's why I say always chase a pro physique, because that's going to get you ready to be in the pro rankings and truly test where you're at.
100%. I mean, we look no further than the Arnold champ, Nick Walker, right? Dude just walks right into the pros, gets 4th place. And then his next competition, he wins. His next competition, he wins. He's off to the Olympia. Who knows what's going to happen? But I think he's a perfect example of that. Hunter Labrada is a perfect example. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, that's literally the perfect example right there. He was in North Americans, which is the show I did last year, and now he's going to the Olympia. Yeah. It's because what he did in his amateur years wasn't chasing the pro card, because he knew the pro card was coming. He was literally working on a pro physique, and he did just that.
100%. All right, so tell us your contest history then, Jason, please.
So my contest history, I'm more of a one show type of guy. This year I did 2 shows, but we'll touch on that in a bit. So my contest history started in 2017. And like I said, my first coach was Fuad Abiyad. And then I started, after that show, I reached out to Aaron Gawley. No reason why I left Fuad other than the fact that I knew he was moving and I kind of wanted somebody more local, right? And like I said, Windsor, where he was moving to, was kind of far, right? So I reached out to this coach, and you actually had him on the podcast there the other day, Aaron Gawley, and he's located in Guelph, which is literally like 10 minutes or 15 minutes away from me right now. And ever since then, me and him have done every show together. So after 2017, where I won my first regional show, I reached out to Aaron, and then we did 2018 Toronto Pro Qualifier, which is, at the time, it was the pro show and the pro qualifier mixed together. That prep was gruesome, because me being indecisive and last minute, I jumped into that prep last minute. So we did a 6-week prep, so I was dying. But we ended up placing second. Obviously not what I planned to do, because we always plan to win. But given the short amount of time that we had, I think second was, I'll take it. And then that was 2018. Then 2019, we did Canadian Nationals. I won the middleweight class, and I placed first out of, I think, 7 or 8 guys. And then, which brings us to 2020, which was a year of chaos, because the C word had come. So we didn't compete there, but we were still focused on off season and doing what we can since gyms were closed. And then it brings us to 2021, where I competed at North Americans, placed 3rd. out of, I believe, 12 or 13 guys. Big show. There was like 1,800 competitors, 1,800 plus competitors. North Americans, if you know, I'm pretty sure the viewers, if the viewers don't know, it's one of the biggest show in like the US. And very shy of my pro card, literally just 2 spots, but no excuses. I think the winner deserved to win, and I felt like we could have came in more conditioned. That's what the judges feel, but we brought a crazy night package, but they unfortunately didn't do the rejudging for the night show. And then we came back from North Americans in Pittsburgh, and me and my coach decided to give Canadian Nationals again a run, and we won the middleweight class for that show. So that was literally 11 days ago.
Now, with the Canadian Nationals, correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, but you have to win the overall in order to receive your IFBB Pro card. Is that correct?
Correct, which is very unfortunate and, in my opinion, very dumb. But it is what it is, right?
Right.
Like bodybuilding, when you turn pro, right? You have 2 bodybuilding classes: the open and the 212. So, in my professional opinion, or in my amateur opinion, I'll probably say bodybuilding deserves at least 2 pro cards given, just because it's like, if you're gonna pick the super heavyweights all the time, which Canadian Nationals or Canada is known to do, because it's like they play the size game, right? But at the end of the day, like I said, chase a pro physique, not a pro card. You should give two pro cards, just because it's like, okay, you pick your super heavyweights, and now you're developing a pro within the open rankings. But let's have a battle between the middleweights or the light heavyweights, where you pick a second pro card where you can mold them into like the 212 class. You understand? So it's like kind of like just my opinion, but I don't know till this day. I don't know why they don't do that, because North Americans, they give them 4 pro cards, the top 4 at the overalls, which makes sense to me. But
I definitely I love that perspective. That definitely makes sense. Now,
yeah.
I want to touch on the 2 coaches that you've had. I mean, to come out of the gates with Fuad as your first bodybuilding coach, like that's pretty awesome. What's maybe one takeaway from your time with Fuad that kind of comes to mind when I ask you that? Like, what is that one thing that you took away during your time having him as your coach?
Hardcore. Very, very hardcore. Says it how it is, and says how he wants it to be done, and he expects it to be done his way, which I have no problem with at the end of the day, because at the time I was just, or still till this day, I'm just an amateur bodybuilder, right? So his methods are definitely old school, which I kind of like, because like I said, like I'm an old school type of person, and he's very knowledgeable. And he was a really good coach. Like I said, it was just the fact that he was moving, and I just I knew that I wouldn't get a hold of him, as you went from seeing your coach every day to like hardly seeing your coach at all. You know what I mean? And I know that we still have technology where we can always FaceTime, and check-ins are always on the phone anyways. It's just, for me personally, I like seeing my coach. So it's just like that way you develop more of a relationship. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. So touch on Aaron then, because you're right. I just had him for those listening, Jason's coach, Aaron Golly. I just had him on the podcast, I think maybe 2 episodes ago. And then actually the overall winner of the Canadian Nationals. Mr. Canada 2021, I just had him on a recent podcast as well. But talk about Aaron and kind of what he brings to the table for you in terms of being your coach.
Aaron is the most caring and lovable, big teddy bear, big vanilla gorilla like he is. He literally wears his heart on his sleeve, man. He loves the sport. He loves everything that has to do with bodybuilding, and most importantly, he cares a lot about his clients. Like, when we did North Americans, and I was stressing out because it was my first time, I don't have my coach there with me. He was literally waking up at certain times where he shouldn't be waking up at, calming me down. His methods and his 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 bodybuilding approach when it comes to prep and off season is great. I feel like he fits my mold. We just work well together. You know what I mean? And I can't say any bad things about Aaron. Like he's the out of the two coaches, I'll probably say he's the best for me, right? Just because of, like I said, I have my coach that's literally 15 minutes away from me, and he's never put me, like, he's never piqued me wrong, so to say. You know what I mean? So it's like we work tremendously well together.
Now, something that Aaron and I discussed on our podcast together was digestion, in terms of bodybuilding. So is kind of that health aspect of bodybuilding something that Aaron really focuses on with his athletes and with you specifically, Jason? And what does that look like?
100%. The guy preaches a healthy digestion and healthy food choices all the time. All the cheats meals, or it's not even a cheat meal when it comes to him after, because all the cheat meals he would give you at the end of the day are fully calculated. He wants you to go to a certain spot. So when the coach says burger and fries, they mean burger and fries. When he says burger and fries, it's like, no, like grass-fed beef. You know what I mean? Gluten-free bun, gluten-free everything, sweet potato fries. It's like, it's fully laid out for you. And it's like very methodical. You know what I mean? So it's like a healthy digestion. He preaches that. And I definitely, since working with him, I feel like that's one of the reasons why my waist is a little bit smaller, just because he takes care of you. And like I said, when I say he's caring, he cares for the health aspect of his athletes, right? So he cares so much to the point he wants you to ingest good food. And when I say good food, it's like good tasting food, but at the same time, good healthy food that you will digest well and your body would absorb, right? Every time, like I always have like an off meal. This is only in the off season. I don't have off meals often in prep, well, at all in prep. But in the off season, I tell him that I have like McDonald's is my weakness. Like it's so bad, but like if McDonald's is my weakness, he would literally be like, dude, why are you eating that shit? You know what I mean? But it is what it is. Yeah, he does preach digestion a lot.
I think it's great, man. It's something I think is we need to shed more light on. Now, something that you've been putting out on your Instagram, your social media here, just after your last competition, is kind of talking about the rebound. I see, you posting that usually you kind of just like blow up pretty quickly after your competition, but this time it seems like it's, to use your word, a little bit more methodical, a little bit more focused. You're trying to really take advantage of the rebound. Talk about kind of this post prep as opposed to maybe past post preps, and what the difference is and why you're doing it this way.
The difference is my fiance. I'll tell you that. She just came off her first show as well, or her first two. She literally competed at her first show on September 11th, a regional show ever, stepping on stage. And then she did Canadian Nationals to me literally a week right after, because it was on September 18th. And throughout the whole process for her, it was very hard. And you know how it is when it comes to women competing. It can be very hard. It's much harder on their bodies, I would have to say, than it is on a male's body. And they peak differently. It's like with us, we're loading up. You know what I mean? Like the last 2-3 days. With them, they're starving and they're dehydrated. So like they're starving and dehydrated. With us, we're maybe a little bit dehydrated, but we're still loading up on the food, right? So with her, when I say she is the reason why my post-show rebound has been so successful this year, is because she was stressed about her post-show rebound, right? And you know how females can get when it comes to stress and like, oh, they don't want to get fat. Because let's be honest, whether you're female or male, the post-show rebound is scary, because now that you're not prepping anymore, you have no goal in sight. Or maybe you do have a goal in sight, but it's so far and you know that you can get away with certain things, and then it gets out of hand. Other post-show rebounds of mine before I met my fiance Morgan, it was very bad, because my first show was the worst. You know, like your first show, you don't know what to do, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, you know what? Even though your coach said this, it's like, nah, you know what? It's like, I already did like a 16-week prep. I don't need all this shit. You know what I mean? I'm going to eat whatever I want. I gained like 20, 30 pounds in probably like 4 days. And it was bad. Like I've experienced things I've never experienced before. It's like, why are my shins hurting? Like shin splints. Why are my ankle? Like you would press into the skin and it will take like 3 seconds for the skin to come back up because you're holding so much water. And you think I would learn from that from my first show? Nope. After the second show, it was the same thing. It's like, no, first 2-3 days, I'm a, you know, like be eating on my plan, and then I'll eat out slowly, add calories slowly. Nope, that didn't happen because the cravings kicked in. And my parents owning pizza, that didn't help at all. And I was living with my parents at the time. Third show, I felt like, which was Canadian Nationals in 2019, it was better. But I think I added like, I want to say 15 pounds in the span of 3 to 4 days. And to me, like I said, I still progressed from my first 2 shows, but the weight was still being added at a very quick pace. And you still don't want that. Not a lot of weight, but compared to the first 2 shows, but still not a healthy weight. Today, like I said, it was more because my fiance was like, she's very picky. Man, I remember one time during prep, she came to the store and she saw a protein bar wrapper in the garbage and she snapped at me. She's like, why are you eating protein bars? Blah, blah, blah. Like you're on prep. Like you should be like, you know, this is your 4th prep and you're like messing up. I'm literally looking at her. It's like, you do know I have 2 other employees that work for me, right? So she's very strict, which is what I need in my life, right? So that's why I feel like my rebound has been so successful, because at the back of my head, it's like, dude, if you have this right now and she ends up finding out, you're literally gonna get like smacked in the face. So today we're literally 11 days post show and I'm only 9 pounds up from my stage weight. And it's been staying at 9 pounds. Like the first week I was only 4 pounds up. Right. And the only reason we gained a little bit more this week was Aaron gave me a cheat on Saturday. So, but we're not holding water. I feel like we're adding tons of tissue because, like I said, I can press into my skin right now. My shins don't hurt. My ankles aren't swollen. And I don't know if you saw my most recent story. It's like I'm still shredded with shredded glutes. So it's like, I feel like we're adding good tissue. So.
Awesome, man. I love it. Now, since we're kind of at that point of you're going into this rebound and you're done competing for this year, what is kind of the focus for your next competition?
The focus is bringing on size. I am tired of being a middleweight. I feel like my body is tired of being a middleweight. Like I said, we struggled a lot to make the middleweight class this year. And I felt like I was pushing limits where I shouldn't be pushing limits because my body wanted to grow and I just didn't let it. Right. So I feel like this year will be different because we're pushing to gain roughly around, I'm going to say it because I feel like, and I believe in myself. And I always preach to everybody, you should believe in yourself. Nick Walker believed in himself. Right. So it's not wrong to say this and it's not wrong to set goals, but we're going to push around 15 to 20 pounds extra in a year. So, and this is going to be solid tissue. And I'm going to say it right now on your podcast, very first public statement, I'm going to be 15 to 20 pounds heavier next time you see me on stage. And we're probably going to be the top of light heavies. And I'm truly going to be undeniable. So I'm just going to say that. I'm going to leave that there. And I guess the people will see.
We are going to see, and it's going to be a sight to see. Now, what are you guys thinking for 2022 is going to be that show that you step on stage that 10 to 15 pounds heavier?
We're going to aim roughly for North Americans again, because I like competition and I like competitiveness. And I feel like North Americans offers that, right? I'm not saying Canada doesn't offer that. It's usually a smaller show here, like the last show. And given the fact that it was the C word, right? The C word season. So we only had 160 competitors, and that's girls and guys, versus North America, there's 1,800 plus competitors. And on top of that, I feel like North Americans is just a cleaner show in terms of bodybuilding is one day, classic physique is one day, bikini is one day. It's very organized that way, right? Versus Canadian Nationals where it's like everybody's in one shot. And don't get me wrong, I've always competed in Canada shows and I love the layout of it. It's just you don't want to be sitting around all day, right?
Right. Now, you've kind of mentioned, Jason, we're going to start wrapping things up here. I'm going to be respectful of your time. You mentioned a couple of times when you talked about like Ronnie Coleman, you've brought up kind of that more nitty gritty, hardcore, heavy training style. Is that kind of the approach that you're going to continue to take into this off season, going for that 10 to 15 pounds? You're going to continue to push the weight and just keep kind of grinding Ronnie Coleman style, or are you guys going to try to switch things up a little bit?
I feel like that training will always stay with me. So I feel like that approach is definitely going to be there, because I feel like in order to push new muscle growth and new tissue, you're going to have to get to places where and get to weights where you're scared to go on to the next set. You know what I mean? But on top of that, we're gonna have days where it's like let's get more, more fascia into the muscle, not more fascia, more blood into the muscle, so more pump and all that stuff, right? It's definitely gonna be very methodical for sure, because on top of that, I don't know if Aaron told you, he's gonna be moving down to where I am, so we're gonna be very, very close now. So we're gonna be hitting training sessions together. And I know the way he trains still heavy as hell. And me and him, I have a couple of training videos with Aaron videotaping. The way we train is kind of similar, but his approach is more smart than mine. Let's say that. Yeah.
That's going to be, I hope you guys plan on getting some content with you guys too.
Yes.
Both of you training, because that'll be legit.
Yeah, that's once he moves, and we're definitely gonna get that for sure, because that's gonna be very, like you said, legit is the word.
Right. Now, speaking about training, actually, Jason, the first time I think I came across you was on HD Muscles YouTube, and you were doing a session with Big Mike,
Yes.
Van Wyk, who is also somebody I've had on the podcast. So again, listeners, all these Canadian guys, it's been like Canadian month this month, but Big Mike, go to some of the previous episodes and check out Big Mike's episode on Behind the Muscle. It's actually one of the most viewed, listened to episodes I've ever had, which is super cool. But the point that I'm trying to get at too, Jason, is I think the first time I came across you is when you were training at Pure Muscle. Mike put you through a session. So talk about maybe just what he taught you or something you gleaned from him during that session and other sessions you've had with him.
Definitely going to incorporate that type of training style in prep, because the volume you get from that session training with Big Mike. So Big Mike is all about flushing blood into the muscle, getting blood into the muscle. No matter what it is, no matter how you do it, you have to get blood into the muscle. So that was a very different approach of how I usually train, but it was very effective, because I've never felt more sore the next day. And I was running on low carb, so I never understood how I got that pump. For those of you guys that compete, and for you, when you're running on low carbs, your glycogen storage is very low. It's very hard to chase the pump, right? Even with a pump product, right? Sometimes when you have a pump product, your pump will be better. It will last a little bit longer. But then mid-workout, you'll find that you're depleting your glycogen storage, or whatever is left of your glycogen storage. And then you find that the pump is gone. But the whole workout with Big Mike was like, holy, like, you know what I mean? Like, dude, like, wow, how is this happening? He was making you do hardly any weight, but it was like a lot of reps, a lot of drop sets, and a lot of supersets. So definitely going to incorporate that during my prep. And sometimes in the off season too, when you're like, you know what I mean? You just want to like work on small muscle groups like shoulders or arms and things like that, where you don't need to be lifting heavy weight. So Big Mike's training approach is you won't understand it until you go through it. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah. And it's just so awesome to see somebody like him who's had all of this experience, and then now he is giving back to kind of the next generation bodybuilders. I think that's really what we need within the bodybuilding community. And like I said, I had Mike on the podcast, and I mean, what a awesome, just soft-spoken, humble guy, but you know that he's been through the trenches, and he gets it. So it's always fun and enjoyable for somebody like myself watching that content. So Jason, I want to ask you kind of about mindset a little bit, and then we're gonna finish it up here. Just
Sure.
It's easy to kind of be focused and dialed in when you're in prep and you kind of got that big goal right in front of you. But like you mentioned earlier, sometimes when you're like 6, 7, 8 months out from kind of like that end goal, it can kind of be hard to stay focused. How do you, now that you're going into that off season, where's your mind at? Do you have like a mantra? Do you kind of have a focus in terms of where you try to keep your mind every day as you go through this grind to earn your IFBB Pro card?
Yeah. So, like I said, the biggest influence of mine, the biggest blessing of mine is meeting my fiance, and she's been my motivation from the very start, ever since I met her. Not saying that I wasn't motivated before, but she has pushed me to new limits where I never been pushed before. Having somebody that understands the sport, like I said, everybody says bodybuilding is a selfish sport and you're just thinking about yourself. But at the end of the day, if you have a solid team behind you and a team that wants you to be super successful and just want the best for you, there's nothing like it. And for me, it's like just having her behind my ear, behind my back, pushing me to be better every day, making sure I stay on my plan, making sure I eat my meals is the biggest thing. So she is my biggest motivator. And like I said, bodybuilding is a team sport, believe it or not. On top of that, 2021 has pushed me even further because I got to talk to guys like Tyler Mannion, Steve Weinberg at North Americans, which is a big deal. I got to talk to Paul Lauzon, which is Fuad's best friend, because he was judging a Canadian National. That was a big deal. A lot of these judges came up to me and they said it's not even a matter of if, it's a matter of when at this point. You know what I mean? And they really want to see me in the pro rankings, so they'd definitely be looking out for me. So I know that a lot of people are looking out for me right now, and I have a solid team behind me. And just pressure is a privilege, like Chris Bumstead said. And that, having that pressure at the end of the day, it's like, okay, all these guys have eyes on you now, Jay. So it's like you need to be the best that you say you're going to be. And like I said on your podcast for the very first time, I am going to add 15 to 20 pounds and be undeniable. And for me to say that right now creates even more pressure on me because now it has to happen. 100%. So that's the going in, because that mindset right there is going to take me to places I've never been before. And I plan on having a Brett Wilkin type of reaction when I step on stage next.
I like it, man. You're getting me fired up, dude. Let's go. All right. So last thing I want to ask you about, I think it's a crucial part of progressing in bodybuilding is recovery. What does kind of recovery look like for you? Does it involve massage? I know sleep's probably very important. What are some of those aspects? And then we'll finish.
Recovery is very, very important. Without recovery right now, you definitely can't progress. So obviously, stating the obvious right there. Sleep is very important. That's number one. Yes, frequent massages. We have a guy that I go to here where I live, which is Waterloo, Ontario, Modern Healing. Shout out to them. He takes care of me almost on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, doing acupuncture, doing cupping, doing Graston work and deep tissue. And that right there is for sure have been helping me with my recovery, on top of all the supplements, the health plan that HD provides me, the kidney HD, the liver HD, because obviously as enhanced athletes, you do want to take care of your insides for you to perform better on the outside. And then sleep is very important. I try during prep, man, like, you know how it is, especially when it came to like the last 2 to 3 weeks of prep where you just couldn't sleep just because of maybe the drugs you were on or just because of the excitement you were feeling because you're so close to the show. Like you just want to get up, and on top of the amounts of cardio you were doing, you definitely want to take some downtime and catch up on your sleep, because when do you grow the most? When you're sleeping. So make sure you get your sleep in, make sure you get massage in, and also make sure you take care of your internals for you to perform at your best. So definitely that's what I usually do. I take in all my vitamins. I make sure my sleep is good, and I make sure my body is healthy.
Awesome, man. Jason, obviously we've talked about a lot of different things here. Is there anything that you kind of want to leave the listeners before we wrap it up?
No, man, we pretty much cover everything, man. I just want to give you a shout out. I know you're blowing up. Your podcast is great. You got great content. So I appreciate you having me on. Appreciate you having a lot of these Canadians on, because sometimes we are often overlooked, the Canadian North up there being up so far. But you know what? We have great talent. I want to shout out once again to my fiance, who's been pushing me to be better. Morgan, my mom, my dad, and my coach, Aaron, and HD, of course. Like I said, bodybuilding is a team sport, believe it or not. So make sure you guys have a great team behind you. If you want to go far in this sport, because at the end of the day, they're going to always push you to be better.
Awesome, man. You're very welcome. And thank you, Jason, for taking time out of your schedule to chop it up with me. This was actually round 2 for us. The first time we had some technical difficulties. So Appreciate you taking time out of your schedule, man, to chop it up with me. This one is full of insight. It turned out great. I'm excited to get it released later today. If people want to connect with you, if they want to reach out to you, if they want to follow along, where can people find you at, Jason?
So you can find me at my new Instagram, The Real J Living Good, because my old Instagram got hacked. So The Real J Living Good is my new tag on Instagram. So follow me there. You can reach out to me at Boss Waterloo, which is my supplement company as well. But those are the two main Instagrams that I have. So if you guys want to reach out, connect, definitely reach out to those two Instagrams.
Very cool. And I've got some more. Paul is actually going to be coming on the podcast here after the Olympia. We're going to be discussing the Olympia after it unfolds. Got some more Canadian guys coming onto the podcast. So any of you Canadian listeners, I always appreciate you listening. I've got some more Canadian pros, judges coming on upcoming here very soon. So all my listeners, thank you so much. Like Jason said, the YouTube is gaining traction. The Instagram is gaining traction. And I am so grateful. I am so thankful for all of you listeners, because if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have the YouTube, we wouldn't have the Instagram, we wouldn't have the podcast. So thank you, listeners. Those of you that are watching on YouTube, thank you. If you guys haven't done so already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, because that's where I release all of these episodes first. And if you want to stay on top of all of these guests, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guests I'm bringing on a week and putting those out. The first place is YouTube, where you can find all of the awesome guests and listen in. And then the second favor I would just ask of you guys, as you have found awesome, great value in Jason's episode, please share it on all your social media platforms. Tag Jason, tag myself, so that we know people are listening, people are learning, people are gaining some insight from Jason and from the other guests. So finally, listeners, viewers, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.